Hey crew, Meg here with a walkthrough of part 2 of our community mapping talk. So community mapping is an excellent way to visually convey a community network. And again, it helps us to visualize. And the second part is what we're going to focus on in this talk, prioritize the impact in interconnected networks. And again, this is so that we can flourish and really emphasize where we want to grow and stretch. So in our last video, I walked you through how we developed a sample map, and I'll jump back to that in just a moment. But the steps again are to jot down any affiliated stakeholders and to think about those being in person, online, other brand influencers, or connections. So think about these questions as we look over at that community map. What do you need in order to better understand as you're developing a community map? What matters? So what do we make choices to act on or pause? And how do you rank what to nourish and prioritize? So those curiosity questions. So I'm going to share with you a little business case as relates to this example. So again, the Pickford Film Center, we're really an anchor within the Arts District that was funded by generous donations, some government support, and a lot of hard work. So we're at a point in maturity where we have a strong viewership and things are going really well. And we want to do more to serve our community. And we've been really busy in the operations of our business and would like to build and develop some deeper relationships with some other local exhibitors as we look at our 2020 growth. So I'm taking this community map that we generated, which has different stakeholders in it. And those stakeholders at this point in part 1, there's no judgment or assessment around priorities here. It's a simple map. So in part 2, what we're going to do is we're going to use this map to say, okay, so given that I am where I am within my venture, we want to think about from a couple of different perspectives. So looking back at some of those strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats videos, what might I consider any of these categories to be in? How might we think about some of these areas within our business model canvas? And what might we set as priorities to develop? So if you thought of what 3 relationships within here you wanted to focus on this year, that's always a really good emphasis point, or this quarter at some interval is always a good emphasis point for us to have about community maps. So as we're looking at our 2020 growth, really focused on building our awareness and concentration as being a business in Bellingham. So what does that mean? Well, that means that we really want to increase the awareness that we are adding jobs to the community. We want to make sure that people are aware that we're financially viable, and they want to make sure that they understand that there's a real vibrancy that comes from the Pickford. So to do that and to really focus in on this business in Bellingham piece, we are going to become more connected within our economic development community, which for us as an arts organization has not so far been one of the primary emphasis points. In addition, we're going to work to deepen our relationship with some of our peers, potentially local peers, potentially other local exhibition centers like the Jansen Arts Center, which is newly founded, maybe Mount Baker Theater, growing our relationship with our neighbor. So we're thinking, well, as a growing business in Bellingham, where might I place emphasis? Because you can't place emphasis on the entire matrix, right? And then in so doing, we're going to ask specifically of the board of directors, because those are people much like myself working in the community, for them to help us grow in our relationships of being a vibrant business in Bellingham. So we can use this community map, which we generate, again, without judgment or ranking. It's simply informational and to cover and assess the ways that we have a network. And then we can take that community map and set some priorities for goals of how we might want to focus in a year. Your interval might be 1 month, or your interval might be 3 years. But how do we look to focus within this community map on next steps is the part 2 of your community map, when we look at nourishing networks and creating those strategic alliances. So thanks so much. I would love to chat if you have any questions about how to take that community map into action. Thanks so much.